important items on lawmakers' agenda just for the month of September. Congress also needs to raise the debt ceiling to avoid a default, pass a spending bill to avoid a government shutdown, pass a health care bill if Republicans want to take advantage of that simple majority vote in the Senate. So far this year, they have scored 0 major legislative wins, even though they have control of Congress and the White House. Let's talk. Joining us, Jeff Balaban. He is a member of President Trump's Reflection Campaign Advisory Board, CNN political contributor and former Philadelphia Mayor Michael Nutter, and senior political reporter and politics managing editor for the Huffington Post, Amanda Turkle. So, Amanda, when you look at everything we just listed that Congress has to get done this month, where do Republican lawmakers and the president actually align?
Well, I think that in a lot of ways, Hurricane Harvey has brought them together a little bit more. You heard President Trump earlier say that he was willing to shut the government down unless Congress appropriated the money he wanted to build his border wall, which a lot of lawmakers are like, I don't really know if this is the time to do it when we need to keep the government open. But now the administration has said that they are backing off that a little bit. It's more important to keep the government open, to appropriate money to help Hurricane Harvey victims. And you were even hearing some lawmakers say, you know, sound a little more conciliatory on the debt ceiling. So I think in a lot of ways, the Congress and the Trump administration realize that all eyes are on them, that the public wants to see a functioning government. They don't want to see everything, you know, fall apart right now. And so there may be more things happening a little more smoothly than we thought they would.
Jeff, I want to ask you about just how much influence the president has right now over the process, because some officials have been openly defying him. We have senior Republicans telling him not to end DACA. We have Secretary Mattis, who won't immediately implement his transgender ban in the military. The Senate, who hasn't passed the health care bill. Members of his own cabinet have slammed his response to Charlottesville. North Korea doesn't seem too scared, despite the president's threats. CEOs are bouncing from his counsels, and Republicans have refused to drop or delegitimize the Russia probe. So is the president losing influence?
I don't think the president's losing influence at all. In fact, I think that his performance in recent days has been a really unifying rallying point in a very difficult situation. I think that people in Washington are paying close attention to that and realize that now's the time really to work together for the good of the country. The president frequently voices and behaves in a very unifying way, but when it gets filtered through politics and media, that gets skewed. I think that enough people have seen it firsthand that hopefully the message now, after we've gone through such difficulty, is that it's time to move the agenda forward, and hopefully that'll actually enhance not just his influence, but the way the rest of Washington is behaving in terms of working together with the White House.
Mayor, I take it you don't agree that the president often behaves in a unifying way?
Yeah, well, I mean, he was doing well when he talked about the president's response to Harvey. After that, that argument really fell apart. About 99 out of 100 problems that the president has are self-inflicted. He causes himself and steps on his own message and undermines his own staff. He has tried to demonstrate over the past week or so that he is fully focused on Hurricane Harvey and the citizens who have been devastated by it. I think this is that moment, Anna, where as an executive, you have to start making some priority decisions. And so you ran through a list of a dozen different things, but you know, you can't do all of those things on the first day back, and you probably can't do them all in September. So what's important? Hurricane Harvey and its victims, debt ceiling, and a spending plan for the government. That's not bad for the month of September. Most of those other things are policy issues that can wait. These are either for people who have been devastated or causing concerns about the credibility of the government of the United States of America, our ability to pay our bills or spend money. And so as an executive, again, you have to make some decisions. As legislators, you know, they're going to have a big plate and a lot of things that they want to do. The president is the president and should use his influence and his ability to communicate clearly in ways that articulate, this is what is important, these are the things I care about, this is what must get done, 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, in some kind of order.
Okay, so if Congress doesn't get legislation passed, Amanda, are voters going to blame President Trump or Congress?
I mean, they should blame both because, I mean, they should blame Republicans because Republicans control the White House. They control both branches of Congress. And, you know, this is what voters heard for years of, you know, give us power and we can get things done. But they haven't been able to repeal Obamacare, which they've been promising for years and years. And, you know, the question is if they can't even sort of keep the government running, for example, or raise the debt ceiling, these sort of basic necessary things that government needs to do, what can they do? And now Trump has already sort of tried to deflect some of the blame on Congress, saying, you know, Congress isn't going along with me. They aren't doing what I want them to do. And so he's already, I think, sensing that there might be some dissatisfaction, and he's trying to push it onto these Republican members and sort of separate himself a little bit.
Mayor Nutter, do you think Harvey could be a unifier and make it easier to get some of this legislation through with Democrats and Republicans actually working together?
Well, it seems to me that the devastation and the death and destruction in Texas, the impact in the rest of the South, should take most of the politics out of what's a pretty straightforward decision. And that really should literally be the first thing that the Congress takes up. The president has sent over, you know, a small amount of money that's needed. The real figure is probably north of $100 billion, but he sent a figure nonetheless. Congress should take that up immediately and then get those dollars out to where they need to go and then figure out how they pay for the longer-term recovery. And then the other two items, as have been mentioned, debt ceiling and spending plan, again, we can't default on our bills, and we need to, for things that we've already paid for, spent money for, and we need to pay for. And then, you know, we need a spending plan as we come up to the end of September. So they know what they need to do, and they need to just do their jobs.
Jeff, I want to ask you about this letter CNN has obtained. It's a letter former President Obama left for President Trump when he left office. And in it, President Obama gives some advice. At one point, he writes, "We are just temporary occupants of this office. That makes us guardians of those democratic institutions and traditions. Regardless of the push and pull of daily politics, it's up to us to leave those instruments of our democracy at least as strong as we found them." Do you think President Trump is following the former president's advice?
Well, you know, the Mayor Nutter's response to what I said is sort of indicative of part of the problem here, which was, you know, he laughed, he thought it was being cynical, or maybe he thought I was being cynical. But I actually do hear a unifying message when the president speaks, and I think that people don't let it get through, and it keeps on getting filtered through people with a political agenda and another agenda. So you could look at this letter in one of two ways. You could take it at face value, and at face value, it's a warm and important letter. It's an encouraging letter, and it's an insightful letter. Or you could be cynical about it also. I mean, there are plenty of times where it's easy to point to President Obama as someone who didn't respect the democratic process. I think I'd prefer, and I think most Americans, including the president, would prefer, especially right now in light of what's taking place in Texas and the Gulf, to really view it more positively. And in fact, it's been reported that President Trump's reaction to the letter was a very positive one, and that he cherishes that letter. Again, it's a report. I don't know that personally, but I think, again, you could look at things and be cynical about them, or you could try and look at our better angels. And in this case, I think if you look at it that way, it's a good and positive letter. And if you watch what the president's doing as opposed to listen to what the critics are trying to make of it, I think he is trying to strengthen our institutions and strengthen America.
He does have an approval rating right now in the mid-30s. So there's a little bit of a ways to go to get everybody together and united on that front. Jeff Balaban, Michael Nutter, and Amanda Turkle, thank you so much. Wish we had more time to continue our conversation. We'll have you all back. North Korea has conducted a nuclear bomb test. Big news. South Korea now responding this hour with its own show of force, a ballistic missile drill. More on that straight ahead, live in the CNN newsroom.
August 2017. Catastrophic flooding from Hurricane Harvey hit Houston and the coasts of Texas and Louisiana. Destruction is massive. Families have lost everything. The final impact, not yet known. But you can help. Go to cnn.com/impact for information and to find links to charitable organizations and resources. Your donations can make a difference. Stay with CNN for continuing coverage of Hurricane Harvey's aftermath and impact your world.
Fries for 316, please. Thank you.
David, what's going on? Oh, hey. That's it?
Yeah.
Everybody, 2 seconds.
Dear Sebastian, after careful consideration of your application, it is with great pleasure that we offer our congratulations on your acceptance.
Through the Tuition Assistance Program, every day, McDonald's helps more people go to college. It's part of our commitment to being